Jason, thank you so much for coming on to do this. We spent the last 20 minutes trying to set this whole podcast up. It's been an adventure, bro.
Hey, well, at least we didn't bust our heads open. It's been something.
Yeah, there was a little blooper reel where Jason tried to lean back in the cab and lean back with him. So I'm sitting
a big
forward.
Guy.
It's all right, man. It is what it is. We're body positive. We're very inclusive here. You can be whatever you want to be, Jason. We love you and accept you for who you are as a human being. But yeah, dude, we've had a pretty it's been an adventure just setting this whole podcast up. So I'm just glad that you were here. I'm glad that you were patient with doing this. You're the policy director of the Austin Young Republicans.
Texas Young Republicans.
Texas Young Republicans.
For the entire state. It's a big state.
That's a big state. You got a big set of responsibility, and this has been a pretty big legislative session.
Yes. No, it's been a great legislative session for us. We've had 5 priorities. They are obviously pro-life issues, gun issue, constitutional carry, bail reform, cannabis reform, and governmental overreach. And I'm proud to say that each of them has at least passed one chamber so far.
So I want to talk about these issues. And there are going to be a few things that I disagree with you on, mainly the pro-life stuff. But that's whatever. Well, let's get to
welcome to be wrong. It's okay.
I mean, we'll talk about medical freedom, and that's going to be part of the whole discussion on medical freedom.
Understood.
Right? But I want to talk about the fact that this past year, I think I'm not the only one saying this. It's been a lot of people have really viewed the events of this past year as a serious threat to personal freedom and autonomy. Yeah. And I think that it's an extremely important priority in every single state legislator, right? Especially considering how our federal government is situated these next couple years, to really go above and beyond to prioritize personal freedom.
I agree, and we saw that so there's 2 bills in the House, or 2 bills in the legislature right now that do those kind of things. There's SB 1025 that came out of the Senate. It passed with 29 votes out of 31.
Okay, what's that bill called?
SB 1025.
No, but what does it do?
It pretty much shows what the governor and local municipalities are allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. I believe it's more strict than the other version, which is HB 3. They're very comparable now, especially after all the amendments on HB 3.
So does it limit the amount of overreach a public official can do?
Yes, it makes sure you can't shut down businesses for long periods of time. You have to call the legislature back in to do a lot of this stuff that we really just saw executives at all levels doing themselves.
Yeah, well, because you saw a big abuse of power. You saw Adler do it, and then you saw Abbott doing it when he closed everything down. I mean, the first month you understand because nobody knew what the hell was going on, right? And you could say, okay, I kind of get it, even though I strongly disagree with it, and it's a serious threat to my liberties. One could be make that excuse to a degree, but then when you're reclosing bars in June and you're not giving these people just compensation, and there was $3 billion in emergency funds, didn't go to any of these small businesses, you have to limit the overreach of an official.
I agree, and I think part of the problem was Abbott did not have enough people around him. I'm a big fan of Governor Abbott. I mean, I disagree with a lot of what happened over the last year, but I, in general, really appreciate so much of what he's done over the last 8 years. But I will say that he has he tried to stop local municipalities. If you remember going back to the beginning of this, he tried to stop local municipalities for enacting these sorts of things, and he made it everything became a statewide issue at that point. So because of that, he had to, at that point, start making it more statewide whenever he wanted to do anything. And I think that was part of what happened and what the problem was.
Yeah, but either way, doing what he did and closing bars again on a Friday when everybody bought their alcohol, it's then you're talking about how you care about businesses and small businesses and all that stuff and how you value livelihoods. That action shows the opposite of how you're feeling. I'm
an entertainer for a living, so I've been out of business.
What do you do?
I'm a balloon artist and
storyteller. No way. All right,
yeah.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's where I actually make my income. Usually I travel the country in the summer, performing at libraries, encouraging kids to read, that sort of thing. That's one of my favorite parts. It's really nice after dealing with politics for a session and then getting to just go hang out and encourage kids to read.
Listen, I love giving pedicab rides because of the same thing. Like, especially now with this podcast, like going out and just hanging out with drunk people and just playing my music is like therapy for me now. You know what
really
I mean?
is.
So like I understand that. And
So
then,
my business has been shut down
right
for
when you're
a year
taking
and a
that
half.
away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have certain feelings as a result of that, and those are not gonna be good feelings. It's gonna lead to a lot of like anger and frustration.
And
all that
people
stuff.
should be angry, but I do hope that these two bills fix those
You know what I
things.
think they need to do? Next time anybody issues any kind of a shutdown, you should forfeit your salary and forfeit the salary of everybody who works for you. That's what I think they.
The people that work for you, oof.
No, if you're a governor, right?
Your salary for sure, but yeah.
Bro, no. Because somebody like Adler doesn't even take a salary anyway, right? But if you're gonna like shut down like bars, restaurants, whatever businesses that there are because of for whatever reason you decide to see fit, you need to understand that those actions have consequences. So if Adler's going to do that, our entire city council should forfeit their salary, and everybody who works for our city council should forfeit their salary, and everybody who works in city hall should also forfeit their salary as well, because you need to put a lot of real serious thought and action to doing that much of a drastic change.
I'm personally always fine with shutting down Austin City Hall.
I hear you, bro. But just in general, statewide too. You know, like
I agree.
It's gotta be. You
No,
gotta do that so that this way, if
that's
you're
a
gonna
fair
shut
argument.
down, there's gotta be. It's like, oh man, you have a really good reason to do that now.
The
you
people
know?
close to you, if you're not dealing with people that are really close to you that are suffering, it's hard to get a sense of what's going on in the world.
But wasn't there somebody trying to write something out like that like last year and.
Well, I'm not sure in Texas because we didn't have
somebody tried to write.
we didn't have a special session, so
no. But I thought somebody like talked about doing it maybe like last November or December, but I don't really know for sure.
I'm not sure. So our legislators don't get paid hardly anything at all anyway. They make $600 a month.
But don't they get paid during the session? Don't they get like a good amount of money while they're in session?
They get per diems, which they're having. If they are more than I think 50 miles away from Austin, they get per diem. So and that's usually to buy hotels, apartments, etc.
Okay.
So they don't make a ton. They do get health care for them.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. What else was I gonna say? So I started becoming like friends with like Mackenzie Kelly and like Thomas McGregor and those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Great
and
folks.
They're really nice people, right? And they were telling me that like it's how difficult it was. We didn't go too much into it, but he started explaining to me how difficult it is to get anything to be pushed through because there's all these like procedural arguments, or there's always something. They could find like something wrong in the text of the bill to just say nope, we can't do it. Look at the procedure.
Oh yeah, we call them
point of order.
POOs, point of order. You see that a lot online. If you're a Twitterer and you follow the Texas Ledge hashtag, POO, point of order. There are so many, so you'll never see them in the Senate. The Senate, they really don't have rules in the Senate. They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
By the way, you learn something new every session. This session, I learned that the Senate actually puts in all of their votes for the day before the day begins.
Okay.
So if you ever thought about it being, now they can change those votes, but if you're wondering if it's a show, yeah, it's a show. They already know how they're voting.
That's interesting. I might use that clip for Instagram so people could understand what's actually going on inside politics, Jason. But explain the point of order stuff.
So point of order is the biggest point of order is when you look at what the analysis of a bill, and it's supposed to fully explain what the bill does. If you find something and you say that analysis is not proper, is not right, it's missing something, or or it doesn't convey something properly, then that's when you have that's when you can call. That's the easiest point of order to call. There's a lot of other smaller points of orders that get into minutia, but the most common one is somebody. So the committee clerk and then the ledge council write these things up, and they go back and forth, and and if they don't do them properly, then somebody can call a point of order on it. So say the heartbeat bill. If you had something on the heartbeat bill and you said, well, this doesn't clearly explain what the heartbeat bill does, or it uses this word and that is not a proper word to use to describe what it does, then you call a point of order on it.
So couldn't somebody just theoretically call point of orders to continually obstruct things that are trying to happen?
Oh, they do that.
Right.
That's called chubbing. If
Okay.
you're trying to slow down the process, it's called shoving.
Okay.
And you
But
see
then
it very late in session.
But that's another reason why you don't issue broad executive decisions like shutdowns, because then when the next bill comes to to compensate some of these small businesses or to limit overreach or do whatever, someone could continually issue point of orders to not let that go through. So for somebody to even do a shutdown, knowing that this exists, it's almost like evil, bro. Like, that's really, you know what I mean? Like, it's beyond reproach.
I cannot defend the shutdowns.
Does that make sense though? Like,
No, I get it. You're right that it's very, very difficult, and it's such a like in Florida. Everybody points to Florida for what happened there. What they did was it was all local entities. Like everything was local in Florida and how they handled it. Texas, it was all statewide. This is a massive state with very different needs in various parts of it.
Even DeSantis had rules, right? He said, like, listen, like, this is the most the local thing can do.
No,
he
you're
gave
right.
them choice, but
Yes.
like he just because if he didn't make it local, right? Like Miami would still be fully shut.
Yeah.
Even though they got a Republican governor
Yeah.
who actually has done some really cool stuff when it comes to Bitcoin and utilizing cryptocurrency, which I think is awesome.
The governor or the mayor?
The mayor. I mean, the
Okay,
mayor,
sorry.
the Miami mayor. Sorry, Miami. I called him the governor. My bad. But no, the mayor of Miami has been starting to like buy up Bitcoin and use Bitcoin ATMs and start accepting Bitcoin as a currency. I think that's awesome. But when it comes to like shutdowns and lockdowns, Miami probably would have just stayed shut down a lot longer than it did if it wasn't for the governor. You know, like.
No, you're right, and DeSantis has done a phenomenal job. Him, Kristi Noem coming in there and just making sure to stop the shutdowns, not giving them a lot of ability to do that in those states.
Which
and
I think is awesome,
I wish Texas had done that. It would have helped a lot of us.
But I think that Texas not doing that is kind of gonna like really work against Texas, and it's gonna, I think, facilitate Texas transitioning from red to blue. And considering what the Democratic Party has been doing this past year and change, it's kind of dangerous, man.
Well, that's the interesting thing is, like, if we'd have had a Democrat governor, would you have seen even more of that? Like, because many of the Democrats in the House, so the House just got rid of a lot of their restrictions on masks and et cetera, just to be in the gallery, right?
Yeah.
So what would have happened, but a lot of the Democrats voted against that. What would happen? So would we still be shut down if we had not just, mask mandates? The shutdown was fairly short, right?
It was pretty short. Yeah, it was only like a month.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very difficult month, and
a
for a
difficult
lot of
month.
Businesses, like, still didn't have, like I said, for like me, you, like we live on events, right?
Yeah, and I mean, look, there's unemployment, and people got helped out with unemployment, and depending on what you did with your unemployment, like if you bought cryptocurrency with it or whatever, like some people might be doing better as a result of the shutdown.
I wish I'd have bought crypto.
I had some friends that were like, "Yo, you better buy." I had a homie who works on for Goldman Sachs, and he was like sending me all these memes like, "What did you do during the pandemic? Bought Bitcoin like a legend," and I'm just like, "All right."
Did you buy Doge?
No, that stands on nothing. That's
Of course it stands on nothing, but still.
Okay, I'll tell you why I didn't buy Dogecoin. Because I don't have a Robinhood account, A.
Yeah.
And
I got rid of my Robinhood account.
Robinhood's a fucking horrible company. Robinhood needs to be investigated with everything that they've done.
That's why I got rid of it.
Yeah, Robinhood's trash.
I switched to Public.
I just use TD Ameritrade like a grown-up, right? But anyway, I don't have a Robinhood account.
Not
and
sponsored.
Like none of the other crypto accounts that I use let you buy Dogecoin. And I'm like, well, if I'm not gonna buy it if it's over 3 cents a coin or 4 cents a coin because of all the shit, you know. So
Yeah.
I just missed the party with Dogecoin. Okay, we talked about the shutdown stuff, right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
talk about this constitutional carry.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. People especially now need to know that they have freedom to defend themselves from a tyrannical
Absolutely.
government and also protect themselves from criminals, right? And you potentially might start seeing rising crime as a result of everything that's happened economically, civil unrest, all that. I think that's great, but the fact that it took forever to pass, but via Dan Patrick, that's kind of bad, man.
Look, that one was tough because he kept saying there's no votes, there's no votes,
That's
there's no
bullshit.
votes. But then he was forced to take the votes. Look, the House has been phenomenal this session. They got that done early, and they're like, here's a live grenade, but just threw it into the Senate.
Okay.
So they got it done, and they tossed it over there so that they had to get it done, and that was absolutely phenomenal. And we're still, we still have to get there's some technical stuff still going on with that, make sure it passes, but we still have 3 weeks, 18 days left. So that's we've got enough time to get that done. If it doesn't get done, it lays on the feet of one person. I hate to say this because he's
Dan
been
Patrick?
a good friend of young Republicans, but that's Dan Patrick.
Yeah, well, he better do it. He better do it. He better do it.
If he doesn't, here's what's going to be interesting is Don Huffines actually announced for governor.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yesterday.
Who is this guy? Tell me about
So
him in
he
like
is
a
a
few
fo-
sentences.
he's
We
a
only have like less than 10 minutes left, right?
Yes.
So,
he's a former senator.
Okay.
And from Dallas area, he lost his seat in the last 2 elections ago, but he was the first person to file constitutional carry and got a lot of pushback from the lieutenant governor over it when he filed it. So the fact that he's going to be running statewide, if constitutional carry is still a talking point that we didn't get done, that's going to be bad for, unfortunately, both Abbott and Patrick.
Okay, what's Huffines' stance on masks and shutdowns and all that?
He is a Ron Pauler, so I would say he's pretty against.
He's a Ron Paul guy?
Yes.
What?
This is not me taking a position, just to be clear.
Wait. Repeat that, though.
But he is a Ron Pauler, yeah.
So he's a...
They're
fucking way. All right.
They're both very tiny human beings, both very short.
Okay.
You know, they're about the same height. But yeah, big Ron Paul guy.
So Don Huffines is a Ron Paul. Like that was one of my biggest regrets when I first was young and started and was old enough to vote was not voting for Ron Paul for president. Like that was probably one of the biggest regrets I had, right? But the more I've learned about it, the more I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like that is, I did not know that Don Huffines is a Ron Paul type of conservative.
He is. It's going to be a really good race. I'm saying neutral.
All right. What's Huffines' take on like eminent domain and big oil and all that shit?
Eminent domain.
The Permian Highway Pipeline was a big thing that I
So
was
he's
really
a land
pissed about,
developer.
like,
So I don't know where he is on eminent domain. Because I was disappointed he didn't support because his brother owns a car dealership.
Okay.
Huffines has it. If you're in Dallas, that's their motto. Huffines has it. And I was a little disappointed. They were not big supporters of Tesla being direct sales for that reason. So,
Okay.
So I don't know exactly where he's going to come out on all that stuff. So I don't want to make presumptions on all of that, right?
Okay.
But that's going to be up to him and his campaign to come out with.
Because the Permian Highway Pipeline was fucked up, dude. Like my opinion, right? You're building this gas pipeline on people's lands none of them wanted that pipeline being built, right? And I think that's like kind of underscores a conservative tenet of like
property rights
respecting your
have to be
property rights.
primary.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And we need infrastructure. We need oil. I'm not trying
I'm
to like, say
a
otherwise,
massive
right?
oil and gas fan. Yeah, no,
But you can't do that if people don't want it being built on their land. You got to respect the rights of the owners, right?
You do have to always make sure to do
Permian Pipeline was
that,
not
yeah.
doing that, and they actually made it a
And
felony.
I'll be honest, I don't
to
know a
protest.
lot about the Permian
They made
Pipeline,
it a
so-
felony to protest big oil at the site last year at the very end of the legislative session, and Abbott signed that shit. And so I was like, oh, I really don't like this guy. And
Well,
then
it wasn't
when
to
he
protest it. It wasn't to protest it. It was, and we actually. So, I'm a hardcore oil and gas guy.
okay.
I really am, and I'm a property rights guy at the same time.
Sure.
And I'm a criminal justice. So all those
Okay,
things
all that
come
it's all
together.
laps into one. Let's these last 3 minutes. Let's talk about this real quick because we've had a big.
So it
like,
comes in together. So I get called up by the environmental campaign of Austin, and they're like, "Hey, we don't know the process well. The problem that liberals have, and especially like far left liberals like these guys, they have no concept of how to talk to a conservative.
No, I fucking agree with you.
Like no idea.
I agree
like,
with you fully.
They're going in there with their like hemp hair and all that. I'm like, look, just like let's have a conversation. So we actually fixed. We made some amendments to that bill to make it a lot better about what people could do. As long as you're not obstructing, you can protest, you can do all those things with that bill, because we were able to make some changes to that bill. I still was not a huge fan of it. I still think it went too far on some against some criminal justice stuff, but we did fix a lot of that bill, so it wasn't as bad as it was.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. And I think that you're right, too, man, because, like, a lot of the stuff I've been saying, like, I'm pushing for legal weed. I had an episode with Dennis Ferris where I'm telling him that the cops should not be drug tested for marijuana. Like, I'm talking to a 30-year retired police officer about this, and it's being well received because I know how to talk, because of how I communicate, right? And, like, some of these far-left defund guys could never even be able to get that guy in a room, right?
Well,
so, like, there is...
Well, we've been working on penalty reduction for marijuana. We don't take a stance on legalization. We greatly support medical expansion, and we should be between a doctor and the patient.
You got to make it legal, though. I don't want to interrupt you.
No,
you've got to make it legal.
I'm representing an organization here, right? So So that is the opinion of the organization. Is we take a stance on penalty. But here's the interesting thing. We're going back through our history. We found a resolution from 1975 that said we supported penalty reduction, and unfortunately, there has not been a bill passed in Texas in all of that time.
That. Look, here's why I think it should be legal, right? And I think that you have a lot of areas, a lot of rural areas in Texas that have been decimated and devastated because of jobs going overseas and loss of industry, right? And if you start legalizing weed, there's so much farmland and open space that you could revitalize a shit ton of small towns and not have people get forced into mega cities as a result of that. Like, if you want to actually grow the Texas economy, do it properly and have it benefit actual Texans, that seems like the easiest, fastest, quickest approach to do it.
While we do not have a position, I can say many of our members agree with you.
Beautiful. And also the tax revenue, too, so you could cap the property tax. Like, when Huffines is talking about lowering property taxes or eliminating it, I'm like, well, you legalize weed, you could lower that tremendously because the revenue makes up. And then also, I'm trying to say as much stuff as possible right now because we got to wrap up in about 30 seconds, Jason. But, like, you start allowing people to pay taxes in cryptocurrency, you could offer discounts on taxes if people start paying in Bitcoin. Because you're paying with an appreciating currency.
But did you know Abbott was the first politician ever to accept Bitcoin as a donation?
No, that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Props. Maybe he can talk to me about all that and how they should move forward to do that like yesterday. Anyway, I'm sorry that we couldn't talk about a whole slew of other issues. We had so much stuff.
We'll have to do a follow-up.
We have to do a follow-up. We had so many issues, like in terms of how we're doing the camera. We couldn't find a power source. The computer wasn't working. A whole bunch of stuff just happened. Everything that went wrong was a Murphy's Law type of day. So we're gonna have to even overlap the video with the audio. But I really had a great time talking with you, and I really, really, really want you to come back and do a follow-up.
Absolutely.
The silver lining is we're gonna have to have a part 2.
I'm happy to do it anytime.
Well, hey, listen, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. I know you got so much to do and so much going on. The fact that you're talking to a pedicab driver about this stuff, it means a lot that you're actually reaching out to working people.
Can I give them one call to action?
Yeah, go.
Okay. If you're a criminal justice person, we have some phenomenal bipartisan bills from Symphonia Thompson and others on penalty reduction. We have HB 441 by Zwiener, which is a penalty reduction for marijuana.
I actually like Aaron Zwiener. I like her. She's cool.
And then we have, it's a good bill, I'll say that. And the other one is 830 by Symphonia Thompson, is a great bill. Just be calling the lieutenant governor and say, we want more criminal justice bills referred to committee, and then call Senator Whitmire, who is a Democrat, and just tell him, look, we need to be hearing these bills. If you don't have the votes, but at least hear the bills.
At least, yeah, I appreciate that. And Jason, how do we get a hold of you?
Online on Twitter is the easiest way, at Jason Vaughn, and then on Instagram it's Just a Free Man in Texas. Texas is just TX. Just a Free Man in Texas.
I think you're following me. You might be.
Probably.
All right. Anyway, Jason Vaughn, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.